Welcome to another episode of Biblio Files. My name's Christopher, and I'm here with Lucy and Amanda from the Ann Arbor District Library. And this week we're talking all about the book that you've read the most times. Amanda, would you like to tell us yours?
Sure. So this was a harder one for me to come up with a solid answer. I tend to not read books more than once. There's maybe a handful of titles I've read a second time, not very many, and definitely not fiction. The few times I've done it, I had a hard time with the second time not having that same visceral reaction as reading it the first time. But I went to my shelf and I found a nonfiction title, the popular author David Sedaris, Me Talk Pretty One Day. This was the first book that I read by David Sedaris. I read it years ago in the yard and I was just laughing hysterically. It's a fun one too. I read this a couple times and I've listened to it on audio a couple times. His books are really great since he reads them. So Me Talk Pretty One Day. There's a few other stories by him that I've listened to many, many, many times, but this is one I've read at least 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, he's very funny.
Yeah. Lucy, what did you find on your shelf?
So I chose the book Beloved by Toni Morrison, and I read this. I don't know if you can see like the inside of my copy. It's very yellowed. It has my maiden name, my first and last name, in high school. So the first time I read this was in high school, and then I probably read it, and I had to read it a few times in college, and then I kept reading it like every other year or so. And I keep returning to it. I love all of Toni Morrison's work, but this is the first book that I read, I think, where I saw an author, like, never, she does not waste a word. Like, every word in this book seems so intentional. And so there's just something about revisiting that and coming back to that somehow I find something different or new every time. So I don't know how many times I've read it, a bunch of times, but this, and I might need to get a new copy. This one's like very underlined, very dog-eared, but that's kind of why I love it. So it's Beloved by Toni Morrison.
Again and again, you should still keep reading that same copy.
I know, I'd like to see
romantic about
notes, especially like my high school notes versus what did I put in college, what have I added as an adult, so it is kind of a fun copy, but it's going to fall apart on me. So Christopher, what did you pick?
Well, I also don't often reread books, but this is a book that I've read a lot, not only the title, but like Beloved, it's the actual copy that I've read so many times. So it's my old Ballantine Books copy of The Hobbit. It's not my favorite book or favorite story in the world, but it's so familiar and so comforting and calming. I love to just throw it in a suitcase if I'm going on a trip, and just reading it takes me back, and I just really enjoy it a lot. I think the familiarity of the story is just so much fun to go back to. So we would love to know what you thought about your book pick. If you'd like to join the conversation, you can leave a comment at the AADL site, and go ahead and like and subscribe to this video. And we will see you next week when our topic is, what is the most moving book that you've ever read? See you next time.